The chapel space, I like that. Yeah, our company's chapel apps, and if you looked on the website, the 1 Million Cups preview, had one simple line that we make mobile apps for churches. And this kind of came about, several months ago. I have a few of those pastors I'll listen to that have mobile apps, kind of they'll call them rock star pastors or whatever, that kind of have a big following, and they have the ability to support a mobile app, so you can listen to their media and connect and do different things like that. But your own church, where you'd like to listen to your pastor weekly, maybe you missed it, or maybe you'd like to listen to it again, you don't have that access. You can go to the website, you can kind of dig through and find it that way, but you don't kind of have that constant connection to media. Sorry, I'm going to try and fix this real quick. Technology. Here we go. You don't have that connection media, but we also wanted to bring some relational tools into it as well, so that you could also not only connect with the media of your church, but also connect with what's going on, with other things like that. So we created this platform to really give the ability for any church to have an actual native mobile app that could be downloaded through iPhone or Android for your members. So I'm a very visual guy, so I'm going to take you through it today. I'm not going to play the animation, the little motion graphics video I created. It's really horrible. But I'm going to take you through the features. So you can see, first and foremost, it's your app. This is a church we're going into in December. It's called North Point. It's in Edmond. And you can see that their users would go to the iPhone store or the App Store or the Android store, Google Play Store, and search North Point and download their app. And then they're automatically connected in, the members are. And what that does is it gives them an immediate relationship with their church, where any events or things going out, volunteer opportunities, maybe services are canceled because of snow, it dings, push notifies, and tells them, because it's actually on their phone. They're connected to it at that point. There are some other really cool features, such as volunteering, so they can put volunteer opportunities out for nursery workers, and with a click of a button, a member can automatically volunteer to be in the nursery. They've logged into the system, so all their credentials and things are already there, so there's no more standing in line or talking to nursery workers and doing all those things. There's also event RSVP, where a member can click and RSVP for an event, or if they're feeding the homeless or whatever thing it may be, they can RSVP with a touch of a button on that, and then also add it to their mobile calendar easily. It says RSVP, yes, add your mobile calendar, yes, and you're automatically connected just like that. So it takes about 10 seconds to hear the event and already be registered to go to it. Media is a big part of the app. Sermons can be pushed in. There's a big delay here. Oh, there we go. Sermons can be pushed in by series. They can also be pushed in by date. It also supports Vimeo and YouTube embed in the app as well. So when you go into a sermon, you can watch the video, or you can actually listen to the sermon audio. You can leave the app, and if you're driving, you can go to Google Maps, and it continues to play natively in the player. So it's easy for you to plug in and play through your radio. You can actually control it with the native iPhone or Android player as well while you're still in it. It's not going to kill the moment you leave it. This is what I mentioned before. This is the events section that you could click that calendar and RSVP. And I've got to wait for the delay so you can actually see what there we go. No, it's back. Oh, come on, buddy. Here it is. So this is what I was talking about, where you can RSVP. So you can kind of play this scenario out where you're at work, you're doing something, it dings and says, hey, we have an opportunity for you to feed the homeless this Friday evening. Click here to volunteer for that event. You click it, you RSVP, you're in. So, and all this logs into a dashboard for the church to see who's actually coming, to do all these things as well. Also have a mobile giving section, and this is actually going to interface with their mobile view site. We're partnering with a company called Moonclerk that lets you quickly donate through the app, and even get on recurring pledges and things like that for building campaigns or mission outreach or whatever, where you can actually pledge. They can actually create different sections to support a certain missionary or a certain fund that's going through, benevolence fund to help feed the homeless, things like that. Has a create new section that lets you create from the app. So you have a dashboard where you can post all these things, but you can click and actually post media to the app. You can post new events, anything that's relevant to your church at the time. The side menu on the app has a Visitor Connect section for visitors to download the app, and they can actually connect to the administrative person or the pastor, whoever it is, by going through that. So somebody that's maybe toying with going to the church or looking at it can download the app. listen to them, kind of see what's going on, and then choose to connect with them in the way that's actually relevant to them. And you can see the dashboard here too. This controls all the events, all the media, all those things. You can do it from computer dashboard wherever you want to. And we actually have a digital bulletin section that we're adding in that I don't have in the presentation that actually got finished up this week. And what that allows churches to do, there's a big church called Henderson Hills in Edmond. It's a big Southern Baptist church. Their app's going to launch with us December 1st. And they can upload PDFs of their bulletin, and it'll actually show up in the app, and actually lets them click notes, and they can take notes on each bulletin. So you can do everything digitally through it, and you can go back to old series bulletins and see what notes you took, all those things. So as a member of the church, you're logged in, so you're able to store all those things. Also as a Bible feed to access Scripture while you're listening to the sermon as well. So we're really trying to do all these things to truly connect them in, but a way that's relevant to them. So that's kind of the product. I'd love to show anybody demos or anything afterwards, but I think I'm getting ready to get cut off. About open for questions now.
You are. Yeah, so now's the time that we get to ask questions about Chapel Apps and how it works. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll get to you. We have a question here, and then I'm going back in the back.
Good morning. Brilliant idea. I really commend you. And what size group can use this? I mean, does it have to be a large church, or can it say even a home meeting type that meets in a building?
Yeah, no size we're actually having flat pricing all the way across, no matter if we're having the licensing fee be pretty low, and we have special really, really low rates for really small groups that we don't advertise on the site. But if somebody's like a church plant, or they're trying to get started, or they're even a home study, whatever it is, we're doing some special things there to kind of help them out to build. And that's what we ultimately want to see in this, is churches grow and flourish because of it, because they're relevantly connecting to people. So absolutely, we would come talk to me if that's something you're thinking about.
Question here in the back on your left.
So I would assume that you have some familiarity with apps like The City. And I'm wondering, as you're talking about this, it's great. Like, the functionality sounds awesome. Would this be something that would be able to replace The City, or is it something that you would maybe consider integrating The City into the app, or how would that work itself out?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I actually was intending to bring up The City while I was going through my thing, so I appreciate you bringing it up. Our church has The City, and
Scott,
a lot
before
of
you answer, could you tell us, for those of us who don't know, what The City is?
You're on it. Yes, thank you. The City is it's almost a social network for church members to get in, to connect, to talk about studies or things. It's not white label, and they do have a City app that you can connect in, but it's third party that's coming in and creating like a social network, and it's very effective actually for a lot of churches. I'm not going to lie, the City actually pushed me into this idea a little bit, because we have it and I don't love it, only because I feel like a lot of times when I go into it, I'm seeing all the same stuff that the people are already my friends on Facebook or another social network. And I'm not really, all respect to you, but I don't really care if your kid made Eagle Scout that week, like in the church. Like, I'm just not, like, I'm trying to be nice, but like, I'm not going to go through and really go through all those things. So it's like those things are kind of double hitting, where this is more of a main event, main stuff going on for that user. But we are going to have links to The City and stuff in the side to push those together. And that actually brings up something else. We have partnered with a predominant web company. They built the Acts 29 network site and Gospel Coalition and some of those bigger ones. And we're actually integrating with their web piece. So what this does is anybody that's using their web platform, when they upload a sermon to their platform, it dual posts into our app, some of those things. So it'll actually hit one shot, so they can have their marketing piece facing the front, but also their native mobile piece to really adhere to members and draw them in. So good question.
Question here in the back.
Hi, so my question is, you mentioned flat fee, but what is your revenue model, and what's your incremental cost for creating a new app for a new customer? And then what does your team look like to be able to support the incremental growth as you add customers?
Yeah, great question, man. That's definitely a struggle as you push into this. So our fees right now, it's $750 flat fee up front to do the two builds for iPhone and Android, and then it's $50 a month licensing that app out right now. And that actually came upon us as of churches actually, they have so much software and it goes through so many votes and things that you had to get the monthly fee down, but they're not as opposed to an upfront fee as much as they are monthly fees because they already have a lot of monthly fees. So to answer your question on the cost of getting that done, it's getting less and less the more we build. So, I mean, initial development of the platform was mucho dollars. That was really bad Spanish, but it was a lot of money building that. But the process getting it done faster and faster is becoming better. So we're having our margins getting a little bit better on the actual setup of the app, and so that startup fee is a little bit profitable. But it just gives us the ability to give commission to some salespeople and people that are doing inbound marketing and things like that. Our team, there's 5 of us. 2 of us are not me. 2 other of them are developers. I'm a fake guy. I'm a faker. When it comes to development. But 2 of those guys are part-time right now. They were full-time building the platform, and they're part-time right now as we develop builds and put them on new features. So to answer your question, the more familiar they even get with the code and stuff, the cost goes down more and more. So it's not as profitable as I'd like it to be right now, but every time we produce one, it gets better. You cut an hour off of time, and that's a lot of money because you're producing massive amounts of them.
Okay, question here on your right.
Sorry if you already said this in your presentation, but will you have the ability to have like a live feed of an event if you can't make it to Sunday morning or if they've got something going on? Can you live stream?
Yeah, so Henderson Hills, I did not mention that. That was a good question. Henderson Hills is working with, what is the company called? Have you seen those boxes that you can just plug a camera into and it automatically posts live to the internet to a web? Anybody seen that yet? Okay, so it's for churches that it's just a box that plugs in. There's no computer or software required. You plug in and it just starts playing to a player live. And they're actually going to that, and we're going to embed that into theirs for a live sermon feed. It's really just a static section in the app that has the embed of the video in there, so anytime you want to, you can go to that.
Okay,
Good question.
In the middle.
So, Scott, what other competition is there, or other places, maybe other places in the country that this has been done, kind of white label aspect like you're doing?
Yeah, there is. The biggest competitor is in Seattle. It's called the Church App, and they are mainly media. So Tim Keller is a guy I listen to a lot, and his church is Redeemer out of New York City. And they did his app, but it's predominantly media. It's really because a lot of it's because he's so big, so he's got really a global following on who listens to him. So the app's really for media, just to push out to everybody. But we brought in a tool that has those media aspects, but really is for the local member to connect. So it's competition with them because they white label, they produce them out, and they are in some big names. They're in Rick Warren's church, in Keller, a lot of these big guys, Billy Graham's ministries, things like that. But ours is a little more geared to the local ministry, all the way down to, like you talked about, even a home study. So, yeah, they're the big competitors, and they do a great job. I actually love what they're doing.
Okay, question here in the front.
I'm curious about your background that led to all this. You mentioned the developers who are full-time and then they're part-time, and how did you fund the development of this? Did you have existing business that led to this, or how'd you pay for it all? How'd you do that?
Yeah, I faked it for a really long time. So I did web development, and I can't even really call it web development, but a lot of WordPress development, but I was a lot of front end, and I knew enough PHP and things to hack some things together and make it look good. So I built out the front end with web apps to get the concept out there and con people into giving me money for it. And so we were able to get we got about 20 churches that'll launch in December. Was able to really present the concept to them and get them to sign an early adopters contract based off, while we're mid-development, still had spent quite a bit of money that actually borrowed to get it going, and then got a big round of development or investment just recently to finish that out. So, yeah.
More questions? All right, give me a little time to get back there.
So being a business, businesses are typically, I say typically, but agnostic to a certain degree. Have you had any cases to where you've had to deal with being a business agnostically and then have to deal with religious institutions to where you either have been an uncomfortable situation, or how has that relationship been between you as a business and religious institutions?
Man, we need to hang out. I like you. That's a great question. I'm a Christian, and I probably am a little resistant. I'm going to offend a lot of people here. A little resistant to the Bible Belt mentality, maybe that Tulsa holds on some of the ways that they say this is secular and this is Christian and this is I'm going to listen to my Christian music and they're going to do that kind of things. I don't really see that in what I read. I believe God made all things good, and we've twisted some things up. So I don't actually have any problem interacting with people, whatever it is, and it's really hard for me to get offended or in any situation, and most of you who know me know that. So I have not run into that at all when I think others in this business would have. I probably have some things I wouldn't do, but I haven't run into them yet, and I haven't really made any statements of what I would and wouldn't do. I would build an app for a bar. I go to bars. I'm just so I guess that hasn't even entered my mind. But I think that I'm Presbyterian too, so we like the drink. It really hasn't been an issue for me now. But I know it is for a lot of people, and it's a big struggle for them. So that's a very relevant question. So I hope that kind of answered it.
Question here in the back.
Hey, Scott, you're a stud, by the way.
Hey, I'll take that.
Yes. Can you tell me a little bit about your business development? Like, how do you reach out to churches? What does that look like? How do you gain more business?
Yeah, it is very different. It's not a lot of knocking on doors. It's a lot of networking, conferences. We're going to Gospel Coalition conference in February, and the company we're partnered with is called Church Plant Media. And they are parts of conferences and have booths, so we're actually splitting booths with them right now at each of these conferences. So Gospel Coalition, Desiring God, some of those different ones. So we'll split booths with them and talk about integration, but it's really developing relationships with people that see it, because it'll be their tech guys or kind of decision makers, but then they got to go present to a deacon board and go through this whole process. So it's very different than knocking on a door, showing a small business owner an awesome piece of technology, and they're like, sign me up, I'll give it a shot. So it's different than that. So we're doing that. We're doing some inbound, some social media pushes and things to try and draw that in. So we're actually modeling really what Church Plant Media has done from their experiences, because they tried both before, and developing a reputation, some credibility was huge with them, because it's such a process to get through, and we're really piggybacking on the credibility they've built up at this point.
Okay, we've got a question here on your right.
Love your idea. You're a rock star in my mind.
Thank you.
Okay, so you kind of hinted in this direction. I am developing a training company, but it's for business. But a lot of the aspects that you have with your app seems to really coordinate with what I'm doing, but it's just Jesus is not the platform in my business. So are you open to doing apps for that, even though it's not a 501c3?
Absolutely. So that is another nice little segue for me here. Our company is actually called Devotify, and Chapel Apps is one of our companies that we're pushing out through this. But actually, we're developing a Foolish Things app right now. If you search the Canes Ballroom in the App Store right now, we've developed a Canes Ballroom app that will listen, push out concerts and sell tickets and do things like that. We're actually developing for some nonprofits. A company or a nonprofit called Women in Recovery. We're building an app for them right now for women convicted of nonviolent crimes. They come out and they're actually able to connect with their sponsors and their administrative person through the app. They're all on Android, so I have to deal with that. But kidding. Yes, so we do have that business platform. So companies around here, Ida Red, all the Blue Ox places. So. They do a little bit. You what? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, she asked if the pricing would differ from church to nonprofit to business. It actually does. The business apps are a little bit more expensive. They actually have a little more functionality in them. So when you have the Foolish Things app and you've downloaded it and you come in, you can actually go up to the front and open a scanner and scan for stars, loyalty stars when you're at the counter checking out. It has things like that, a few extra little pieces like that. Although we are having a feature in the church where they can print QR codes and say volunteer for the nursery, and you can scan with your app and it automatically volunteers you. How cool is that? So some things like that, some interesting push notification stuff where Foolish Things actually can drag a circle out and ding people as they're coming down the road to tell them to come in. Really cool stuff that's white labeled out. But yeah, the pricing does vary a little bit. Not much. So yeah.
We have a question
Talk
here
to me
on your right.
afterwards.
So, a couple people have said that your platform is Jesus. What code is that in? No, I'm just kidding.
I wish I had something clever to
hashtag
say.
Lame joke. Okay. I'm going to piggyback off of Brad's question over there. Talk more about the marketing strategy. You mentioned a strategic partner, but what does that look like, and how are you? And then I guess finish answering Jeff's question about what does your team look like, and how are you planning on scaling your team out as you market?
Yep. Good. Yeah, I knew that I didn't answer that marketing question very good. You should have known you'd come back to it. Yeah. Dang it. He's not going to let me slide on that one. That was weak, I know. So, yeah, really the piggybacking on them is a big one through their network. They're in over 1,000 churches in monthly recurring revenue and SaaS model stuff with them. So we are really clinging to that and trying bringing a real clientele through that. But some inbound social media marketing with some videos. We're shooting a video this week at Henderson Hills of the app working and doing some stuff like that. We have some referral programs, and we do this in the business and in nonprofit as well, where if your business or your church tells another church about it and they sign up, they just put a little code in, you get a month off yours. So we are doing we're really doing some loyalty stuff with our loyalty platform through them as well. We do have a really good connection. Henderson Hills is probably 8,000 members down there, and they're really a predominant Southern Baptist church. So they're a really big connection for us too, because Church Plant Media is in kind of the Acts 29 network, and some of those guys that are nationwide, they don't have a huge presence in Oklahoma. Actually, Acts 29 doesn't, and they have a huge connection to the PCA, the Presbyterian Network too. But they're really, Josh is his name at Henderson Hills, is really big into the network of the Southern Baptist scene with conferences and things like that. So he's actually going to be kind of our ambassador to Southern Baptist people as well. So that's another push in there. Our team is myself, two other business development guys. One of them is the main investor, and then really 3 developers. One of them, I guess, is a little bit more full-time, and then 2 are part-time. So we try and grow. I know that was weak again, but I'm just going to move on.
You're not going to talk about the future with the team at all.
Oh, about the future. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Way of the Future. So, do you ever see that movie? Howard Hughes, where he just keeps saying that over and over again. The Way of the Future. So really what we're looking at is, and he had mentioned it before, is really getting a groove of developing the apps and continuing to get the cost down as we develop them, because we're not making really any money when we build the app initially right now. It's all about the recurring revenue, and with an app it's unique in the sense of you have to produce unique builds when you do a feature update or you do a bug fix. You aren't clicking a button, it's fixing it on the server on a website. You're creating those builds again, submitting to iPhone and Android and doing all those things. So really just getting my 6-month hope for this is to get a lot of churches in, but really get a grip on how to do the development and the amount of features we have before I think too big of how to just really draw a huge group in. Because it's white label native app, it's almost scary to bring on thousands of customers all the time, because you have one screw up and now you're doing thousands of builds all over again, and you're spending a ton of money doing that. So then it's kind of interfering into your monthly recurring revenue too, if that makes sense.
So last question, what can we, the community, do to help you in Chapel Apps?
Man, there are like 2 things that come to mind. If you have a church or a business or a nonprofit that you'd like to talk about, even if you're really not that interested in it, but you're like, man, I wish it had this feature, I'd love to talk to you, because like with the Foolish Things app, that scanning loyalty card thing wasn't even in the initial MVP. It was 90% of the people that had signed early adopters contracts said, I hate my punch cards, or I don't really like my third-party loyalty system. Can you get that in there? And yeah, we're like, well, we'll drop a bunch of money because a bunch of people want to do it. So I'd love to hear features you have. Any connections to your church where I can just come do demos for them, because those are valuable to me. And I know this sounds like a sales pitch, but it's valuable to me even if they don't sign up, because I want to hear what they have to say. I've been in some rough meetings. Some church people are really mean. I was like, man, this is not good. This is like, woo. The guy at the bar is a lot more friendly, actually. Why don't you Christians think on that for a second? Having them come talk to me and do that and make any intros we can have and do demos would be huge. And any feedback you would have as a user, I love talking about that stuff. So. Yeah.
Well, if you're still standing, come on in. There's a bunch of seats. There's an entire row here of empty seats in the front. Dustin's going to present next. He won't bite you that hard. So come on in, grab a seat. There's cookies. I don't think there's any more coffee, but there's some cookies back there. As usual, if you're interested in signing up for the newsletter, Tulsa at 1 Million Cups, and just put the subject line newsletter. Write something really funny because Barron has to read them. So write something funny for Barron. It will make his day much better. We're in the middle of Global Entrepreneurship Week. Yep. This is, I suppose, the event for today. So you are participating just by being here. There's an event going on tomorrow. There's 2 events going on tomorrow. Yeah. The final presentations for the CCEW projects are happening tomorrow at 11:45. Somebody correct me? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Where's Taylor? So more information at gewtulsa.com. And then Startup Day Tulsa. Tulsa Startup Day, an expo is also going on. Check out gewtulsa.com. If you're interested, there are innovation grants available. Kirsten is going to send it out on Twitter, but I had a little thing about it I could read. It's, I won't read it. It's interesting. You can apply for a grant, and the information will be on Twitter.
It's about creative ways to address social issues.
Yes, it is.
So it's not just you want a new couch or something. They're not giving away grants for couches.
Yes, and I think they're about $1,000. Is that what I read? Something like that. It will be valuable if you have an excellent social idea. Up to 5, 1 to 5. Pretty impressive. That's a swanky couch. A former 1 Million Cups presenter, Lavate, has a Kickstarter going on. If you remember, they presented here about a month or 2 ago. Really awesome idea for a chair lift for wheelchairs. So support their Kickstarter and at least go watch the video. It's very interesting. And then Robert's here to talk about an entrepreneurship or a networking event happening this Friday.
Here, take this right here, right behind here.
To have the authenticity of Scott. Where'd you go, brother? Great job, dude. I love the authenticity, and that's part of what Giver Spirit's kind of based on, is that just open networking. You've probably all been to networking events where you felt like kind of like meat in the water for sharks. The philosophy behind Go Givers is based on Bob Berg, the Go Giver, and the Go Giver Sell More. And we're going to meet the first Friday of each month, 7 o'clock in the morning at the Spirit Bank Tower. Everybody's welcome to come. And it's a pitch-free chance to meet other business owners, other salespeople, other entrepreneurs. And then over the course of the month, you'll have individual meetings with 4 people. Really, really simple. We'll hope you come. We're already in 5 states, and we haven't even launched yet. So kind of cool, just the idea of to give, then receive, instead of the other way around. Thank you.
Thanks so much. That's all right. So that's happening this Friday. Enjoy it. Or not this Friday. The 5th, yes. 1 Million Cups is crushing it. We had a whole bunch of companies that were finalists in the Tulsa Innovation Awards. So give it up for these guys. There's some familiar faces here. Our next presenter is, he's a bit unique. He's presented here already at 1 Million Cups about a little over a year ago. He just recently had a baby, and he's also one of the 1 Million Cups organizers. Please welcome Dustin Curzon and Narrable.
All right, I'm going to not set my water up there. That's a bad idea. Okay, so like Ben said, Narrable, we were actually one of the very first companies to present at 1 Million Cups. That's how I got involved, and then eventually became an organizer because I just think it's a really cool event. So, like Ben also said, I just had a baby. So here's my obligatory baby picture. I was really tempted to just do pictures of puppies and babies, and that would be the only thing I talk about, but that would be boring. So that's Ella and Charlie. Charlie's being a good big brother. So if you don't know about Narrable, we're a storytelling platform for K-12 students. It's the idea that learning is basically done best through stories. So what students do is that when they're learning, they're figuring out, hey, we just learned about the Great Lakes. They get on our website, and then they create a story about what it would be like to be a fish living in the Great Lakes. And they upload images, drawings, whatever they want, and then they record audio narrations. And the audio narrations is a really, really important piece of it because when you talk about something, it's really authentic. You can write and you can kind of copy something out of the book, but you can't do that when you're speaking. It's really clear if you're just sitting there reading out of the book and there's not what you're saying, there's no authority in your voice. So bringing voice back into the classroom is really, really important. So this is actually a classroom at Jinx East Intermediate, and you can see this is what classrooms are like these days. And they have laptops, there's more one-to-one, so it's taking students and they're just kind of focusing on the screen. And there's not a relationship among students and then with their teacher. So what Narrable does is it brings that relationship piece back into it through voice. So basically what the basic concept is, you can choose your topic, you add your voice, and then you share that story with others in your class. So last year when we first presented, we had just, in the last 6 months, pivoted into education. We originally started out as a family ancestry tool where you could talk about family photos and things like that. So last year was our first full year. We ended the year with 16,000 students in almost 80 different countries using the site, which we were amazed at the uptake it took outside of the US. And I think that just goes to show that stories and voice is really a universal concept. It's who we are as people. So outside of the US, there was actually a week in April that the Colombian government was our #1 referring website for the whole week, which was really random and weird. So France, Russia, some Tanzania, and then kind of Latin America are our main places outside the US, which is just really exciting, and then all over the US. So last time we were here, this is kind of what Narrable looked like. Oh, where did it go? There we go. Be cool. So you can see it's pretty boring, but that was what we built originally. Since then, we have redesigned the entire website. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. So we took a tip out of Google's new material design language. Almost all of our users come from using Google Apps. Google Apps for Education is really huge. So we wanted to mirror that design aesthetic to make it a really comfortable transition from them going from what they're used to into using Narrable. So, and we aimed it more as the student, bright colors, middle school students is our main market. We also released a new account structure where you could have a free account as a teacher and try it out. You can have a classroom account if you have up to 50 students and just pay monthly on a credit card. And then you can have a volume license. Man, 6 minutes goes fast. So now we're at the point where we're trying to scale in education. And it's really, really interesting because it's a growing market. And you can see the purple is the e-learning expenditures in the US from 2010, 2013, 2015. You can see it's doubled from 2010 to next year, it will double. But that's within the US. If you look outside the US, it's doubling almost every year. So it's a really exciting place, especially for us to be able to see traction outside of the US. That's where we're focusing, is scaling, not only in the US, but outside. So how are we doing that? Through channel partners. It doesn't make sense for us to build a sales team to go and sell to every single school. It's just a long process. So outside the US, there are American schools, which are named at expats and diplomats, things like that. They're already teaching in English to make it a little easier for us. Corporate private schools, just like in the US, you may have a company that owns like 8 nursing homes. There are companies that own 8 private schools in Brazil, and you could go to one corporation and have 45,000 students sign up. So that's our big focus. Curriculum providers and hardware manufacturers. So one other one that we're looking at, we're trying to work on right now, is Jostens. And this is one that domestically that could be really exciting for us. Jostens is the market leader in yearbooks. They have 40% of the market, $330 million annually in yearbook sales. So we think Narrable is a really cool alignment for what they're doing. You know, they're focusing on, as a school, here's the story. We're focusing on, as a student, here's my story, here's the story of what I'm learning, here's the story of the classroom, and tying that digital story into the printed yearbook. All right, I'm going to quit.
Okay. And as we can see, he has a slide for lessons learned. So, yeah, let's start with that, Dustin. As we get into this question and answers time, what lessons have you learned?
I put too many of them on here, so I'm not going to go through them all. Probably the biggest, I'm just going to click through them. This one's boring. Automate the boring stuff. There are great tools out there for doing HR and accounting, because that sucks. Shameless plug, I'm also doing a workshop on this tomorrow at 10 o'clock, so you can come see that. Trust your gut, especially when it comes to people. That's one thing that I've learned over this last year, that when it comes to what you think the market is doing, don't trust your gut, because it's usually wrong. Measure that, ask people, do things like that. But when it comes to people and working with somebody or hiring somebody, always trust your gut, because it is going to be right. And I've learned that over and over again. Relationships are everything. Long-term relationships with potential employees, potential investors, and added more puppies in. I couldn't think of another way to represent relationships.
Besides dogs.
Yeah. And then finally, this is my last lesson learned, is scaling. So I don't think I had a concept for what scaling really meant when I started Narrable, of a venture scale business. So when you think of scale, you think, oh yeah, that's awesome. Well, so this is, if you're not familiar, the company Stripe, they're a credit card processor that works with developers. So this is, in 2012, their growth for that year. It's insane. Well, you can see that red piece is actually just this piece, and the next year, this is what their growth was. So that's scale. So whatever you think scale is, if you're in a web business and you think, oh, I'm going to build a scaling web business, it is way bigger than anything you could ever imagine. Okay, I'm done now.
Great lessons. Now time for other questions. Okay, here in the middle.
So I'm curious, Dustin, are they doing it, and or is there a trend of the yearbooks doing the digital yearbooks and again incorporating kind of what you're talking about? But is that being done already? Is there any implementation of that sort of thing yet?
Yeah, there's so Jostens went from, I think 5 years ago, almost $400 million in annual revenue, to now this year they're going to be close to $300 million. So they're losing a lot of money in yearbook sales, and that's primarily because of moving digital. So what they're trying to do, and how we think we can fit into that, is they have a Replay It, which is their online little photo sharing network where you can submit photos for, maybe we'll go into the yearbook and things like that. So they're really focusing on the photo sharing piece, not necessarily a digital interactive yearbook component of it. So what we're trying to provide is not replacing, we're not going to be a photo sharing site, but we're providing the tools to be a conversation happening around those photos, but also a way for them to do these micro yearbooks of a class, and that a Narrable could be that piece of it. So it's still a place they're trying to figure out, just like most print media. They don't know what's going on.
Question here in the front.
So first of all, congratulations on growing as much you guys have over the past year. It makes me wonder, how big is your team now? I mean, when you're developing everything from scratch, there's this group that you're working with, but day-to-day operations now, how much stuff are you automating versus what do you have to do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So let's get real. This is a safe place. By the way, I'm really hoping that either Zach or Jeffrey asks me a question that makes me cry later. So you two, I'm counting on you guys. So be thinking.
Zach's next.
So our team right now is two of us. Myself, Scott is our developer. So we had the old site that took us. We had a team in India build that. It took us almost a year. Scott rebuilt it from scratch by himself in 3 months. So he's pretty awesome. So no one try and steal him from me. I'll fight you. we had this summer we had 4 people, and so we had an intern who's doing kind of social media and blogging stuff for us, and then we had a guy doing some sales stuff for us. So, but then we hit a funding gap, and so the sales didn't pick up as quickly as what we thought. You know, there's a big difference between people adopting a free product and then when you have to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, no, you have to pay now." There's a disconnect there, and so we hit a little bit of reality. So we had to cut our team in half, down to just 2 people, and that sucks. That is really not fun. It sucks for the morale of the people left too. So that's where we're at right now. What we're working on right now is kind of scaling that back up now that we've really gotten lean, cut out everything that we don't absolutely need, and focusing on channel partners and things like that.
Okay. First crying question here in the back.
Morning, Dustin.
Good morning.
I have a question about pricing. It's 3 questions. Sorry. 1 is explain your pricing structure. 2 is how did you get there? And 3, do you think that's the final pricing structure you'll have?
Okay, pricing structure. Free. Oh, God, I see a hand raised over here. We have a free. We've done a lot of trial and error on this, but a teacher can sign up for free, and they can make as many Narrables as they want. They can't access any of the class management features that we've added, like adding classrooms, managing students, creating assignments, and they also can't share the Narrables. They're private to just the person who created it. They then can sign up for a trial of the classroom account, which is just 50 students. That's $10 a month. Can pay on a credit card, more like a traditional SaaS model. And that's the idea that they can have access to all those class management features, really see if they like it. And then once they decide, hey, we want to have this for maybe all my classes or for the whole department or things like that, then we go to the volume license, which is just $2 per student per year. And that's paid just annually, and we do it through an invoicing. Most of the time at that point, they're going to have to sign up for a PO and things like that through the office. How do we get to that? Well, we tried $5 per student, and people laughed at us, so that didn't work. It's a really interesting piece in education because in the U.S., public schools have all the money, but they have all the red tape. And so it takes a lot of time to get that. Overseas, private schools have all the money and very little red tape, which is very nice. Another reason why we're going that direction. What we found is the market. We looked at competitive pricing really, and tried to price ourselves in that area. We're not an assessment tool. We're not something that can spit out a report and say you're going to do this well on the state test. We're just not at that point. So we have to know what we are as a product and price accordingly to that. I think our pricing will stay the same. I think this will be our pricing. It may vary on some of the channel partner stuff, and they have the ability to maybe mark it up and adjust it within a threshold. I think our process will continue to change on how trials work and how we get teachers to convert from teacher discovery to administrator paying. That's a very interesting process.
If anyone's wondering, SaaS is software as a service for those of us who are not educated in that arena. Dustin, it looks like your eyes are still dry, so let's try again.
Okay.
I'm probably going to disappoint because I probably won't make you cry here. But philosophically, the public education in the United States has been focused on, as you mentioned, assessment-based. And your product is a creativity-based thing. And I know there's been a big focus on STEM education. And I'm a proponent of moving it to a STEAM education to where the arts is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So have you seen any resistance to your product because it's so focused on, because the schools are focused on outcome and assessments versus creativity? And my second part of the question is, you have such a luscious and full beard. What are your best beard trimming and maintenance tips?
Thank you. I'll answer the second question first. I actually just trimmed it because when my daughter was born, she was a little freaked out by it. I haven't tried the beard oil. I think I should, maybe this winter. But conditioner, shampoo, Head and Shoulders, scrub it with a stiff brush, works. And keep it trimmed, clearly. Resistance, yes. Because people say, oh, I don't see exactly how this is going to help us score better on the state test. They don't care. And we definitely run into that. unless we have a conversation with somebody, an administrator or teacher, and we can talk about what Narrable does, I think deep down, administrators get it, and they see that, or educators get it, and they see, okay, this is actually a great way to learn STEM. You know, for students especially who STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It is the jam right now in education. So if you want to get money in education, do something with STEM. But not every student necessarily gets science, technology, engineering, mathematics very well. So Narrable is actually a great tool to do that because it takes these mathematical concepts and puts them into a narrative form. Tells a story. I mean, it's a story problem idea, and it helps students get that way. So we've actually had some polarizing. Some say we don't want to touch it because it's not exactly analyzed, measurable, all these different things. We've had others say, no, this is awesome because this is going to provide a new way for us to approach that area. We are working on ways of actually being able to analyze and measure what students are saying, mainly through taking that audio, transcribing it, pulling out keywords, and then actually being able to talk about, are they speaking their vocabulary at the correct level? Speaking, things like that are directly tied with literacy. There's tons of research out there. It's just trying to connect all the dots for the educators. So,
question here on your right.
Hey, Dustin, you probably knew this was coming. You've got a web-based application that your teachers and you are using. What is next? Are you developing mobile or?
Taylor knows the answer to this question that she asked. We are in the process of developing an iPad app right now. We're actually partnering with CCEW and their SOBA team that they're working on an iPad app for us right now. They're doing a killer job. That's been our kind of second area of focus. If you look at our site, which I don't know why I looked up there, it's not going to be up there. 93% of our traffic comes from desktop, which is kind of the opposite of the rest of the internet, because it is the classroom, and that's primarily what students have. They have Chromebooks, they have laptops, things like that. That's kind of fourth grade up. Below fourth grade, it's a tablet world, and an iPad is the primary tablet there. So that's where our kind of next area of development. And then we'd also like to do mobile apps, especially if we do get into more of the Jostens yearbook side of things as a capture tool to be able to go and on a field trip, as a voice recorder, whatever, use it as a tool to submit content into the Narrable. More and more schools are BYOD, where you can bring your own device, where students can use their own devices to help learn, because schools don't have any money.
Question here in the front.
Dustin, I love the idea, and I think maybe in America it bodes better for a Montessori or a private school environment. I'm wanting to sponsor it for my daughter's school. Okay. Do you have any platform where I could do that instead of the teacher paying?
We've looked at that. We don't have anything currently. We've looked at PTO organizations, things like that, where they can come in and sponsor it. That's especially powerful in the private schools, the Montessori schools. That's interesting. Our assumption was that private schools would probably be our quicker adopter, and it's been the opposite, because they know that every dime that they spend extra, they have to charge back to parents, and so they're very, very particular about what they're going to do with that. But going directly to parents, we actually went to the Oklahoma PTA conference last summer, I think, and sat around just talking to parents and saying, okay, how do you think this could work? Another kind of funding strategy that we think could work is why I like this potential Jostens partnership is the school, if they are a Jostens school, could get Narrable for free for all their teachers. And then at the end of the year, when you buy your yearbook, you pay an extra $10, and I want to keep all my students' content at the end of the year. So you get, some parents are going to want to do that, some aren't, but it helps fund Narrable for the rest of the school to have. So it's another creative pricing strategy, but we can definitely work something out.
Question here in the back.
What's up?
So you mentioned in your presentation that students and users of Narrable can record their voice and upload visual stuff to kind of tell their story. Have you ever considered, one thing that comes to my mind, and I don't know if you had ever considered, for authors, if they are writing something or telling a story, to maybe, I don't know if you considered ever partnering with, say, an art and design company that does illustration, to illustrate these stories that these people are writing or these students are telling as part of your platform. I didn't know if you'd ever consider anything like that?
Let's talk. We have had some art classes use it as a way to, here's my portfolio, and be able to explain, here's why I did this piece of art, here's what the meaning behind it is. So I think there is a great connection between art and the story behind art, just like photography. What's the story behind the photo? But it's chat.
Question here in
nice
the back
beard.
row.
If this is a bad question, you just ignore me. Is it possible on a surface level to be able to give an example of I did not like algebra and it was hard for me to care in the classroom? What would it look like for Narrable to help me when I was in high school learn algebra better than just hearing my teacher talk to me about it? Like, how do you put, I guess, math into a story to learn formulas and stuff?
Yeah. I have a better geometry one off the top of my head, but I'll try and do the algebra one here. I don't really remember how to do algebra. Okay, so when you're doing a math problem, at least this is how it was for me when I was learning. We had to break it down and show our work. And so each step is the way of understanding, okay, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. Algebra is a very linear thought process. So Narrable is built in a way that is very linear. It's photo, and then the next photo, and the next photo, and the next photo. So it lends itself to those types of problems. So whether it's science or math, being able to say, okay, I start with this problem. Okay, the first step is I'm going to do this. And then it's you saying out loud, okay, what am I going to do? And so I think there's just as much the action as it is the content. So it's thinking out loud. It may not be right, but you sit in recording and saying, okay, I'm going to divide both sides by 4, to get this 4 out of here, or however that works. Solve for X. So you do the different steps through, and then the teacher can go back in here and say, oh, okay, I understand their thought process of why they did this. So it may be wrong, but I understand why, and we can go back and we can address that piece. I just made that up, but I think it's a good answer.
Last question, Dustin. What can we, the community, do to help you?
I'm glad you asked, Baron. So like I said, we are in the process of scaling, and that is perhaps going to be the hardest thing for us, and is the thing that could make us survive or not survive. We've been on this, those of you who've done a startup or a business, you realize that it feels like some days you could go out of business the next day, or you could make $100 million the next day. And so you just kind of fake it till you make it. So we need partners for scaling. We're looking for people to come and help us who have experience in education sales, and whether it's here or overseas. So if you know anyone that has that experience, I'd love to chat with them. If you know someone who owns a company that sells to schools, whether it's IT, it's curriculum, whatever, would love to talk to them. And then we need capital to be able to do that. So if you're an accredited investor, let's chat. So yeah, that's kind of what we need. We need help scaling and getting from this big to this big.
All right, well, let's give a hand for Dustin and Narrable.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to close today with an announcement and a display of gratitude for one person in particular. The 1 Million Cups community and Tulsa in general owes a huge debt of gratitude to Tim Bickers, because he is a major reason why we're all here. He convinced Nate Olson at the Kauffman Foundation last year to make Tulsa the 19th city for 1 Million Cups. He wrangled presenters. He assembled a team of leadership, of organizers to get the job done, and continued to guide us through our first year and into our second. And he's done a lot for us, but at the same time, 1 Million Cups should not be about any one person. It should be about us as a community coming together. And so it shouldn't ever become dependent on one person or even a set of a few people. It should be dependent upon all of us gathering together and combining our efforts. So today is Tim's last day as a community organizer in the day-to-day role. He's going to take on an advisory role. That's right, yes, says his father. He's going to take on an advisory role. We'll call him the community organizer emeritus. But we wanted to thank Tim formally today and present him with this piece of art that ColourPop did for us a couple weeks ago. This is 1 million cups. So let's thank Tim. And with that being said, remember it's Global Entrepreneurship Week. There's still 2 more events tomorrow, the CCW final presentations and the Startup Day and Expo. There's co-working going on all day and workshops. Dustin said he's doing one. You can go to gewtulsa.com to find out all the events. Thank you for being here. We will not meet next week because it's Thanksgiving week. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care.